Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this delightful video here on the Disabled People's channel. My name is Adam Pearson. I finally snuck in. Someone has made a horrible, horrible error. Yet anyway, here we are. And what are we talking about today? Good question. Well, I am joined by the delightful, the 51st most influential disabled person in the UK 2020. Who's number 50? This guy. I'm joined by Sansome. How you doing, Simon?
Good morning, Adam. How you doing, mate? You're okay?
I'm good. I've got my weird flex in for the show.
Because you were one place above me. Is that the reason that you had to flex your muscle? So for the people who are watching this, me and Adam are actually good friends. So this is a bit weird, him interviewing me. But anyway, we'll carry on.
So yeah, we've got a lot to get through. We've worked on a lot. You've worked on a lot. For the people that don't know who you are, Mr. Simon Sampson.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who am I? Okay, I run a Facebook page called Ability Access, which is the most read disability page in the world. Before COVID, it got about 20 million hits a month. At the moment, we're averaging about 1 million, give or take. I mean, I'm still telling stuff to my wife, Kate, that I've got spinal damage. So my spine is very delicate, okay? And the things that I do that to her is confusing, but to me it's normal because it makes me feel more comfortable. So I explain it to her how I'm feeling and what hurts and what doesn't hurt, so that she understands what I'm going through, so she gets a full understanding of what's actually happening to me.
And what is the raison d'etre of Ability Access?
It's basically getting information out there to raise awareness. When I set it up, I didn't think it would become anything really. It was the story of raising awareness of access issues in a wheelchair. And after a couple of weeks, it had 1,000 followers. After a few more weeks, it had 1,500 followers. And then because people were sending stuff in and we were posting stuff, and I was doing a blog called abilityaccess.blog, it started winning awards. And I thought, oh, this is quite strange. Then we got followed by a person on Dragon's Den. That kind of sent it viral. Then Facebook blocked it. That sent it worldwide because they said disability is disturbing on a recorded conversation. And yeah, it's gone absolutely mental since then. And it's now one of the biggest platforms for disability around the globe, which is amazing.
And it's a really good way that you're sort of fighting against misconceptions and prejudice. Accessibility is a huge thing, and I find disability as a protected characteristic unique, and it's the only one where people literally have to put their money where their mouth is. Companies can all pretend they're not racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, insert your ism here. But to put like a ramp in, or make large print signs, or put braille on your lift buttons, etc., etc., you've got to pay up. You've got to stump up the cash. Why do you think there's so much, or seemingly rather, so much resistance to do that?
Cost mainly, I think. And this isn't being homophobic, sexist, or anything. To support the gay community or LGBTQ is always to do is wave a flag. Where if you have to support people with disabilities, it costs money. You have to install things. They have to be trained. You have to install special equipment, ramps, lifts, whatever. If someone needs to work in a workplace, you have to make special adaptations to that place, like they do in their own homes. So I think it's very, very difficult for companies to fund things where they don't need to because it's an extra cost for them. Coming back to Ability Access, I mean, Ability Access is a very powerful tool as well. I mean, once an article goes up on Ability Access, it usually goes quite viral very quickly. I'll give you an example. We did a story with Wicksteed Park where they stopped a child who was autistic going on a ride because he couldn't wear a face mask. Obviously, we did a story about that on abilityaccess.blog, or I did, and within 24 hours, they completely changed their policies and gave an apology. Same with Facebook. When Facebook said disability is disturbing, it was the second time ever they put out a global apology to say it to the disabled community. And it just goes to show what kind of impact ability access is having. And a lot of it is thanks to Facebook for saying disability is disturbing, because I wouldn't be having this conversation today, I don't think, if they didn't mess up so badly.
Why do you think mistakes like that happen? Is there sort of like, because there are levels to this, aren't there? Granted they're blurred, but there's a line between kind of prejudice and then just lack of education and one putting their foot in one's mouth.
Yeah, things like learning disabilities, mental health issues, and physical disabilities does need to be on the national curriculum. If you start teaching kids about it in school, then they will be well adapted to it later in life. Because most people will come across someone in their life, especially in the older generations, who have a disability, who has a mental health issue or a learning disability. And if we can narrow it down to where they start teaching them at primary schools, then it will be less of a conversation later in life.
Why do you think we aren't doing that right now? What's the one or the biggest barrier that you can see to that conversation just happening organically rather
Because
than it being kind of crowbarred into the curriculum or kind of wanky HR training in a
it,
workplace?
because it doesn't affect the mass population. If people wanted to work from home, they couldn't. So if you had a disability and you wanted to work in a call centre, you couldn't, because you had to go into the call centre. But as soon as able-bodied people aren't allowed to go into work, then they resolve the issue within a week and make sure it's eligible for everyone to work from home, because otherwise the company is going to shut down. So until situations change where able-bodied people can't do things, then the people aren't going to change the way they want to do things or should do things.
Do you think talking about disability in a deep and meaningful way, not on a superficial surface level way, makes non-disabled people feel uncomfortable?
I don't think it makes them feel uncomfortable. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. Any conversation regarding disability, raising awareness, talking to non-disabled people about disability is very important.
When someone's only experience of disability is in a film or on TV programs or things like Children in Need, it becomes very one-dimensional and cliched. And it's when you're hearing disabled stories told by non-disabled people, you're inherently going to have a very warped view of the reality of disability.
He is not disabled taking on a disabled role, which happens a lot in TV and film, and it should never happen. It's the equivalent of, Tom Hanks playing in a film of Barack Obama. You just don't do it. You don't black up. Why would you cripple? It's just obscene that it still happens in today's society, which should never happen, because there are very talented actors with disabilities out there.
But it happens disproportionately.
Yeah.
So I think that's my main objection. I don't think putting a blanket ban on it is the right thing, because there are some instances where it has to be done. Things like the Fear of Everything, stories like yours, Simon, where someone goes from being able-bodied to disabled as part of a wider narrative arc.
Yes.
I think those are times when I will give it a pass. But when you're just doing it because someone wants a challenge or really likes the role, or they read the script and liked it, or there are a lot of the other excuses, like my favorite one is, it's acting, anyone can play anything. And then when you point out that Laurence Olivier blacked out to play Othello in 1965 and won an Oscar, then all of a sudden, oh no, not anyone can play anything. Obviously, there were differences. But yeah, ableism, rock and roll is normally the response when you point out the fallacies there. Yeah. And again, it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I think disabled representation in the media is lacking at every single level, in every single part, rather, of the creative industry.
Well, this is why we're having the discussion today, to promote this comic book, Three Blind Mice.
Yeah.
Which is available at threeblindmice.store. You can buy it, you can order it. And it stars myself and Adam Pearson. And not Warwick Davis. Got to say that for legal.
Not Warwick Davis. That's really important.
So the reason I did this comic book, I've turned Mr. Pearson here into Buffy the Vampire Slayer without the superhero powers. He is a demon killer. And it's based around Richard III, how he's found in Leicester, how he's dug up by archaeologists, and when he's dug up, he released Hell on Earth. And so it's a very interesting, very artistic. I mean, it's illustrated by a lovely girl called Raquel Aguero, and she is a fabulous artist. Thanks to Three Blind Mice, she's got a job now, but she's got a master's in animation, and we just met, and her artistry just blew me away. And I'll just show you one of the main pictures. This is inside Leicester Cathedral, and that's the moon in Leicester Cathedral with the demons underneath. They've kidnapped the moon, trying to destroy the earth by doing that. What it was is because disabled representation is so poor in TV, comic books, film, radio, the three main characters in this comic book all have different disabilities. So you've got Adam Pearson, who has obviously facial disfiguration. Myself, I'm a journalist, but I'm in a wheelchair. And not Warwick Davis. He's actually his character is called Miles Plum, who's my bank manager. Yeah, and he's got dwarfism. And it's about these three people who come together where things have been hidden in history throughout time. And their role is to save the earth by finding clues that have been hidden through the Three Blind Mice organisation. The first one is called The Cow Jumps Over the Moon. There are going to be 6 of these. The series is already written, and it's selling well. It's doing all right at the moment. So yes, go to threeblindmice.store and order your own comic book. And if you want it signed, send me a message, I'll sign it for you. And if you want it signed by Adam, we'll get Adam to sign it as well.
The fascination with Richard III and sort of like the embryonic stages of this idea, is it true that they found Richard III's body underneath your parking space?
Yes, that is true. So I used to work for social services at Leicester City Council, and what it was is I worked on emergency call-outs as a duty officer, and there were 4 car parking spaces where he was found, and one of those was mine, and that was the duty space. And they found him under my car parking space. Yeah, that is true. A bit weird, because we lost our car parking space. So every time there was an emergency and we had to go out with the fire service or the police service or the ambulance service, we had a 15-minute trek to the closest council car park. So whenever we got a call, we'll be there. We're going to be a little bit late because Richard III's been found down there.
That has got to be the best excuse for being late I have ever heard in my life. Normally I'm like, oh, Adam, why are you late? I mean, I didn't want to come. But for you, oh, why are you late? Richard III, mate. Like, how did you come back from that?
It made me late for work every morning because I had to get through traffic and just can't park outside the office anymore.
And so to segue into something else, finding my feet.
There is no clear cause for your paralysis, Mr. Sansome. That means we cannot offer any treatment that will improve your symptoms. It is likely you will never sit up or walk again.
For you, how was it seeing your story slowly come to life as with a production crew, and then how was it watching other people playing you and your lovely wife Kate?
Exceptionally weird. It wasn't something I was expecting. The whole idea of me meeting Brandish Studios, who are brilliant by the way, and the reason we went to meet Brandish Studios was for Three Blind Mice. And I told them my story, and I come out with a film and a documentary about my life, which is really strange. But again, like you said, they got it straight away. It was actually Charlotte Fantelli, who runs Brandish Studios, who said, this needs to be made, this needs to be told, your story needs to be told. So we're telling this story about how Facebook blocked ability access, the disability discrimination in the workplace, and how we are setting up ability access legal which will represent people completely free of charge for disability discrimination cases in the workplace. And having people like Graham Cole, who PC Tony stamped from the bill, yourself, Adam, on set all the time, because Adam acted as a disability consultant for the trailer. It was just one of those things that you'll never forget. It was absolutely absurd and absolutely fantastic at the same time. And it's something that will live with me forever, and hopefully we can move forward doing the documentary and the film.
We shot the trailer. We did a COVID secure production, which was so well managed. I mean, we worked with Branded Productions in Bournemouth, who I have nothing but good things to say about. Nothing but good things, because we met them, we explained your story to them, and they got it. Disability is this weird thing where you don't get it till you get it. Either personally or be a proxy. And all the crew got it, which is a thoroughly unique situation to be in for me, but also quite beautiful in a way. Everyone was on the same page from the word go. You say that you used to work for Leicester City Council, and obviously things happen that you can go into as much detail into that as you want, but you're now setting up a legal wing of mobility access, aren't you?
Yes. So this comes under two things. I'm setting up something called Ability Access Legal, and this is being funded by myself for the first 2 years, which is, it's hurting my bank account, I'm not going to lie. However, I think it's well worth doing. What happened is when I became injured, it took me a year of recovery from physio operations to get to a point where I thought I might be able to go back to work. Okay, I didn't know if I was going to be successful or not. And what happened is what I thought was a return to work meeting. My manager turned up with HR, and if HR turned up, you know something's not quite right. And they gave me the option of taking ill health retirement or 4 counts of gross misconduct. And I hadn't been at work for a year, so that was an interesting one. So after throwing them out the house, as you do, I went to try and get legal aid. Then I found out that the Tories and the Liberal Democrats cut legal aid for disability discrimination in the workplace. So I had to stick £2,000 on my credit card to take them to court. And I represented myself in court, which was absolutely terrifying. For 3 days, I sat in front of the judges and I called witnesses and I called people from work to the stand. And I had no legal experience whatsoever. So what I was doing is I was quoting references from The West Wing, Philadelphia, the film, and A Few Good Men. And we don't live in this courtroom, and I had the judges in hysterics. They were trying not to laugh on the bench. They were like hiding it. And it was just the most obscene situation. It's just crazy. And what was even worse is a number of staff members actually came out to support me. Okay, because I had the highest case turner in the office. I was very good at my job. I'd been there for many years. I'd worked for the council for 8 years. And so on one side of the room, you had myself and my colleagues, who were witnesses and also did a statement for the court saying how good I was, this shouldn't happen, blah, blah, blah. And on the other side was the management team trying to get rid of me. And then after the court hearing, my colleagues and the management team had to go back to the same building to work with each other, which is just the most bizarre thing you can ever come across. But what happened is I did get a little bit out of my depth, because although I won at the local level, Leicester City Council, the council did take it to appeal. And when it got to appeal, we just couldn't defend ourselves because we hadn't got a clue what they were talking about. And in that process, it got overturned on a technicality of misusing IT stuff, computers and stuff, as you do. But and then I still got ill health retirement after that because I was still entitled to it. So I resigned. My official point is I resigned because I knew what they were trying to do, because the last thing I wanted to do was to be sacked from a local authority, being disabled, trying to find work. The chance of me getting employment was absolutely none. So I couldn't take that risk. So I returned to university to retrain as a journalist and set up Ability Access, and here we are today.
So how is ability access legal going to work? I'm assuming you're not going to encourage everyone to go in and quote the West Wing like you did back in the day.
No, so Ability Access Legal, as I quoted before, we're just waiting for our charity number, which should be coming very soon, is a front door to free legal assistance. So I'm calling on lots of friends for this. Is one of my best friends is an employment barrister, okay? And he's doing it pro bono for the time being, and I'm going to be paying him per hour. So he's contracted per hour, and he's doing it at mates rates. We're also talking to, funding-wise, talking to my local MP to get funding from the government. But no, what it is, we're a first-stop shop. If you're facing disability discrimination in your workplace, or you think you are, you can come to Ability Access Legal website, type in your concerns, and we will get back to you. Okay, and we will advise you on what to do next. Because hopefully we're going to be helping people from the disciplinary stage in the workplace up to appearing in court with you. It will help people like myself who didn't have any legal experience whatsoever and know who to turn to, because what we found out very quickly was his company was turning away 14 cases a month for disability discrimination. And the reason for it is Adrian, being a lawyer, being a barrister, charges £350 an hour. Okay, the maximum you get from employment tribunals is a year's wage. So if you're earning 20 grand a year, there is no point whatsoever you taking your employee to court for compensation if someone like Adrian is charging £350 an hour. And so you're going to get all the stress, all the concerns, all the appearance in courts, and someone's going to send you a huge bill, which may be more than £20,000. So we decided, me and Adrian got together and said, look, let's do it completely free of charge. I will fund it for the first 2 years on cases that we think we can take on. So they will be assessed. They will be assessed by our managing director. He will review the cases. Then he'll pass them to Adrian. If Adrian thinks we can take them on, then we'll take them on. If we can't, we'll advise them the reason why. We've already won our first case. There's a poor woman who's working for a local authority who has to change her medication, who's got spina bifida, and she had severe side effects, so she had to take some time off work. And when she returned to work a few months later, she was dismissed. And she contacted Ability Access, and she didn't know what to do. And we said, let's represent her free of charge as a trial to see how it went. And we went to the disciplinary hearings, and she was reinstated immediately.
So if my understanding is correct, there's like almost two strands here. One is giving disabled people just a pathway into the system.
Yeah.
But also removing that barrier of finance, so making it financially accessible, as well as getting them into the system to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also contacting law firms as well, because law firms have to do so much pro bono work, which for me means free work. And so it's a good way, it's a good channel for us to pass your information onto law firms who might be able to take on your case as well. So there's two ways of that happening. And we're already talking with quite a major law firm at the moment who are potentially want to take on cases for us, again, free of charge, regarding employment disability.
But no, I'm excited to see how this all plays out, and I'm just delighted to be part of this amazing journey that you're on. There'll be people watching this who may be disabled, may not be disabled, and for some this might be the first deep conversation they've heard about disability. So for those people, how can everyone be a good ally to the disabled community?
I mean, share your story, share your information, share posts, talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your families, raise awareness, and just generally make sure it's an everyday conversation that you're talking about disability every day, if it affects you. Or even if it doesn't affect you, tell them how you're feeling, tell them what's going on so they understand you. I mean, I'm still telling stuff to my wife, Kate, and what's happening to my body. So, and that happens on a daily basis, because my disability can change from one good day to a bad day where I can't get out of bed to where I'm, going up and down the street on my scooter. So it does vary considerably. But no, just share information, raise awareness, read more about it, tell your children about it, educate people about it, and then hopefully one day it might become the norm.
I completely agree, and just to add to that, I think also ask questions if you want to know about disability. Ask questions, and I know that's a lot easier said than done. I think we live in a very PC culture now,
Mm.
where people feel like they're treading on eggshells and are afraid to say things. But I would rather be asked a question and be inadvertently offended. And I'm super hard to offend as well, by the way. So ask me questions and go for your life. I'd rather be in that situation than everyone just sit in this awkward silence
Yeah.
and have absolutely nothing change. So I would say, kind of, for a disabled person, obviously just don't go up to someone you don't know and ask their life story. That's not what I'm advocating for. But yeah, get involved with the community, ask questions, and also get involved. Think of it like a bank. If I haven't put money into a bank, I can't go and take money out of it. But if I start getting involved and putting some pedal to the metal and start putting a deposit in, then I can start taking withdrawals out of it. So yeah, make disabled friends. Me and Simon are great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're charming. You know, we get along with anyone. Just come have a drink with us, come have a meal with us, ask us questions, interview us, and we'll tell you honest answers. Yeah, best thing you can do.
Amazing. Well, Simon, it's been a pleasure as always, and hopefully, when this whole COVID-19 debacle finally finishes, we can get in a camper van and go get food or go on an adventure,
Mhm.
or we'll both have PlayStation 5s by then, so I can school you at whatever's hot at the moment. It'll be great.
Cool. I'll speak to you soon, Adam. Thank you very much indeed.
You too, mate. Take care.
Take care.